Randstad Holding N.V. is a Dutch multinational human resource consulting firm headquartered in Diemen, Netherlands. Randstad is the world's second-largest HR service provider after Adecco. It was founded in the Netherlands in 1960 by Frits Goldschmeding and operates in around 39 countries. In 2013, the company achieved a turnover of €16.6 billion and a net income of €230.7 million. Randstad employs around 28,000 staff. Globally, Randstad has 4,587 branches. Randstad Holding N.V. is listed as RAND on the AEX of Euronext Amsterdam. Founder Frits Goldschmeding is still the biggest shareholder. Randstad's head office is in Diemen, in the Netherlands. Core activities: Randstad specializes in human resource services for temporary and permanent jobs, including contract staffing of professionals and senior managers. In most of these countries, Randstad works according to a unit structure, whereby each unit consists of two consultants who are responsible for service provision to clients and selecting candidates. Randstad promotes these activities under two brand names: Randstad and Tempo Team. A separate division of Randstad focuses on recruiting supervisors, managers, professionals, interim specialists and advisors. These people are deployed in temporary positions in middle and senior management, such as engineers, ICT specialists, or marketing and communication specialists. In a number of countries, Randstad also has operating companies that select managers for permanent placements in middle and senior management. HR Solutions also involves a number of services such as selection processes, HR consultancy, outplacement and career support. Brands under which Randstad promotes its activities include Randstad, Randstad Co., Tempo Team, Expectra and Yacht. In order to increase name recognition, Randstad has also become a sponsor of the British Formula One team Williams F1. History: 1960 to 1970. The company's launch. Randstad was founded in 1960 by Frits Goldschmeding and Gerd Dalebout, who were both studying economics at the time at VU University Amsterdam. The first flyers for the firm were typed in Goldschmeding's attic room in the student house on Slotterkade in Amsterdam. The agency was called Uitzendbureau Amstelveen. In the first years, Uitzendbureau Amstelveen mainly provided personnel for the insurance industry, banks and the healthcare sector. The firm's first office was near the Vondelpark in Amsterdam. In 1963, the agency also opened branches in Leiden and Rotterdam and changed its name from Uitzendbureau Amstelveen to Randstad Uitzendbureau. At that time, Goldschmeding and Dalebout were still sure that the Randstad represented their total reach. A new logo was created by designer Ben Bos from Total Design. This is still the logo used by Randstad in 2011. From 1965, Randstad opened a branch in Brussels, in 1967 in London and in 1968 in Düsseldorf, Germany. France followed in 1973. 1970 to 1980. After obtaining additional funding from Amro Bank, in 1970 Randstad moved into a new head office on A.J. Ernstraat in Amsterdam, where administration of timesheets was centralized, and the company's first computer, the size of a large conference room, acquired to process them. Criticism: as the number of temporary staffing agencies grew, temporary staffing agencies acquired a poor image. Part of the criticism was political. Trade unions and left-wing parties wished the government to have greater control over the labor market and also over employment mediation. Unions were concerned that temporary staff had no rights, might earn more than permanent staff, that employers would replace permanent jobs by temporary ones, that only people who were relatively mobile got temporary jobs, and that temporary staff would be given only dirty and heavy work. However, Randstad felt that it was finding jobs for people who would not otherwise be active on the labor market. The Dutch Ministry of Social Affairs struggled with the concept of temporary staffing agencies and introduced a series of restrictive measures, going so far as to stipulate that the agencies could not expand any further. Moreover, each temporary employee had to be regularly re-registered with the ministry, nor were temporary staff allowed to earn more than permanent employees. The unintended effect was that demand for temporary staff soared, due to the relatively low costs. In response, Randstad, together with ABU, an association that promoted the interests of temporary staffing agencies, initiated 22 court cases against the regulations. One result was the abolition of regulation prohibiting expansion. Consultant role while acquiring and serving clients, on the one hand, and selecting and placing temporary staff on the other were initially two different roles. Randstad decided to integrate them in one person, the consultant. At the time, this was a unique development in the temporary staffing sector. In its early years, the company had focused on supplying key punch operators, typists, accountants, administrators and secretaries. From 1973 it adopted a broader approach, dealing with all types of personnel, from medical to industrial. Holding company. At the end of the 1970s, Randstad had several divisions, not only temporary staffing, but also cleaning work and security. In 1978, Randstad Holding N.V. was therefore founded as a holding company to accommodate all the divisions. Randstad also moved to a bigger head office in Diemen in 1977. 1980 to 1990. Steady growth and stock market flotation. The period 1980 to 1990 started with a recession, as a result of which Randstad was forced to make 160 staff redundant. However, predicting correctly when the economy would recover, Randstad shifted its focus towards growth instead of cost reduction. Its competitor Tempo Team was less successful in riding the recession and in late 1982 sought to be taken over by Randstad. The price was €125,000 and the commitment to repay a large debt. Randstad maintained the brand name but differentiated the Tempo Team brand by aiming at more experienced staff. CAL for temporary staff. The trade union FNV now recognized that the labor market needed flex workers, and that for many people temporary work constituted a step towards a permanent job, and sought discussions. This resulted in 1986 in a collective labor agreement for permanent employees in the temporary staffing sector, and in 1987 in a CLA for all temporary staff. Recognition. From 1982, government policies became less hostile to temporary staffing agencies, recognizing that they could promote employment, and the rules were gradually relaxed. This was a major change for Randstad, its changed status being symbolized when during its 25th anniversary celebrations, founder Goldschmeding received a royal honor. Stock market flotation. Randstad's turnover rose from €204 million in 1983 to €518 million in 1985. In 1988, Randstad embarked on a stock market flotation which took place on 5 June 1990. Initially, Randstad shares did not do as well as hoped, because the introductory price was set high. However, successful performance from 1991 caused the share price to rise. 1990 to 2000. Internationalization. At the same time, Randstad gave more focus to internationalization. Around 1990 it was primarily a Dutch company, only a quarter of turnover was generated by international activities. On 1 April 1992, Randstad acquired the Dutch temporary staffing agency Flex, which also had branches in Belgium and France. For instance, in the Netherlands, Worknet was acquired and integrated in Tempo Team. A major goal was to establish the company in the United States. New board member Eric Vonk therefore set up a small office in Atlanta and sought a suitable candidate for takeover. In 1993, Randstad took over Tempforce, a local agency with 12 offices in Atlanta. At the end of 1993, Randstad also acquired the American agency Jane Jones Enterprises. By mid-1994, Randstad had 32 branches in America, generating a turnover of €30 million and deploying 5,500 flex workers every day. Still small compared with Randstad's turnover in the Netherlands of €909 million. Randstad became a sponsor in Atlanta of the 1996 Olympic Games, and supplied 16,000 temporary staff to the Games, greatly increasing its name recognition. Management changes. On Friday, 16 May 1998, at the age of 65, Fritz Goldschmeding retired from the company he founded after 38 years. After a year's rest, Goldschmeding took his seat on the supervisory board. He was succeeded by Hans Zwarts, who embarked on more acquisitions. In order to continue the internationalization process, temporary staffing chain Strategix was acquired in the United States, a company with 300 branches. In Switzerland, Life and Work was acquired. In Spain, Tempo Group, and in Germany, Time Power. However, these acquisitions and problems with integrating them into Randstad caused 2000 and 2001 profits, and the share price, to fall. Faced with these poor results, Zwarts resigned. 2000 to 2010. Recent history. In October 2001, Clem Fowler succeeded Hans Zwarts as CEO. His aims were to reintroduce the former Randstad brand values, develop a better strategy for internationalization, and substantially cut costs. This was expressed in a new business strategy based on 4 strategic building blocks: strong concepts, best people, excellent execution, and superior brands. This strategy was successful. In 2003, the net profit was €77.1 million, a 36% increase compared to 2002. However, in August 2002, Fowler was diagnosed with a serious illness. Then Noteboom temporarily stepped into his shoes, and definitively assumed his role on 1 March 2003. In order to further standardize Randstad's services, the company started to define and implement best practices. You map out the market and enter the results in this database. We've turned these activities into a routine. We give it the rhythm and tone, but our staff make their own music, according to CFO Robert Jan van der Kraats. As a result, it is easier to copy services from one market to another. Randstad has specialized in the recognition, recording and implementing of company processes worldwide. Internationally, Randstad took over MA and Team4U in India, and took its first steps in China. Randstad also entered the market in Portugal, Hungary, Turkey, Poland and Japan. In the year 2000, Randstad also launched the Randstad Award research conducted by a third-party research company, ICMA, in 23 countries around the world including USA, UK, France, the Netherlands, Hong Kong, Australia and Singapore. The Randstad Award is based on the results of the largest employment survey into employer branding research across the world and designed to uncover how employers are perceived in the eyes of today's job seekers. Vedior. On Monday, 3 December 2007, Randstad and temporary staffing organization Vedior announced their merger. Randstad had been eyeing Vedior for some time. The takeover moved both companies up to number 2 in the world. Vedior had a higher proportion of higher margin, faster growing professional staffing business than Randstad. Moreover, Vedior operated in strategic markets in which Randstad had not yet established itself, such as Japan and Brazil. In spite of differences in organizational culture, the two companies were ultimately successfully merged. 50th anniversary. In 2010, Randstad celebrated its 50th anniversary marked by the publication of the book Randstad Mensenwerk, compiled by Professor Fred Emmer, Professor Emeritus at Leiden University. This book was internally distributed within Randstad under the title, Working on a Dream. Countries in which Randstad operates. Randstad operates in the following countries: Africa, South Africa, Asia and the Middle East, China, Hong Kong, India, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, United Arab Emirates, Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Andorra, Austria, Belgium, Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Italy, Luxembourg, Monaco, the Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Slovakia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, United Kingdom, North America, Canada, United States, Latin America, Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Mexico, Uruguay. Figures. An overview of Randstad's main figures. Turnover and profit. In 2013, Randstad achieved a turnover of €16.6 billion. The net profit in 2013 was €230.7 million. Global distribution of turnover and the different business areas of Randstad. Global distribution of turnover generated by temporary staffing. See above for a description of this business area. Global distribution of turnover generated by professionals. See above for a description of this business area. Global distribution of turnover generated by in-house services. See above for a description of this business area. Average number of owned staff. In 2013, owned staff include flex workers working in the Randstad organization. Number of branches. N 2013. Number of in-house locations. N 2013. At in-house locations, Randstad works at one location for a specific client. Management Executive Board composition. In 2014, Supervisory Board composition. In 2012. In March 2011, Fritz Goldschmeding, original founder of Randstad, resigned as vice chairman of the Supervisory Board. His last term ran from 2007 to 2011.